Ladies and gents, welcome to the first episode of a new series we are running on the podcast. It is called Pro Tips. I have taken the time to go back through and listen to every single interview since the podcast began, and I have brought you the best 5 to 20 minutes of absolute gold from each and every single interview that we have done. That way you can re-embed the learning around marketing, sales, team building, culture, mindset, development in some way, shape, or form to help you create more leads, more sales, more profit, and more time. So you can do more of the things you love with who you love. I absolutely loved listening back to every single interview. I got new things come back to me the second time. You know what it's like when you watch a film for the second time? You see things second time around that you didn't see the first time you watched it. Well, it's been exactly the same for me with these interviews. So I know that it's going to bring you a huge amount of value to enjoy these pro tips from people who are experts in their field and people who are going to be able to inspire, motivate, and educate you to get to the next level. As I level up, you level up. As my mentors level up, I level up. It's all part of the journey. We help each other to let go, to grow, and to be able to achieve more together. Thanks very much indeed. And I hope you enjoy this series. Let me know what you think, as always, by coming to connect with me on my favorite social media channel, which is Instagram, Facebook, or of course, LinkedIn. I'm just listing them all now, aren't I? But come and hit me up on the Instagram DMs. Share with me your favorite story. As always, I haven't requested it for a while, but this podcast is only great because you listen to it. So I want to say a huge thank you and how grateful I am to have you as a listener. And I appreciate you taking the time to, watch, read, listen, wherever you like to hang out with me, because I do this for you and you make it all possible. So thank you for being you, and thank you for being an avid fan or an avid listener or watcher, whatever you choose to absorb the Financial Pro podcast. Thanks for being on this journey. And here's to another 100, 1,000, 1 million episodes. Thanks very much. Take it easy. And as always, now's the time to become pro.
I would always say, deal with a good mortgage advisor, because they will be able to place your mortgage much better than you will yourself, much better than you'll get from a comparison website, right? Because you don't know the lending criteria, you don't know the underwriters, you haven't got a good relationship with the underwriting team and can talk to them about specific cases. So I always say, look, go see a mortgage advisor, simply because.
How would you see mortgage planning versus someone who's ready to buy mortgage advice? And what do you think the correlation would be from a mortgage advisor's view based on your financial planning experience?
Yeah, we live in the internet age, so sourcing products, for most people, they can do that themselves, right? Now, you know as well as I do, I mean, I've got deep respect for the mortgage advice industry, because I know it's a real niche and it's a real expertise, right? It's a real specialism. So I would always say, deal with a good mortgage advisor, because they will be able to place your mortgage much better than you will yourself, much better than you'll get from a comparison website, right? Because you don't know the lending criteria, you don't know the underwriters, you haven't got a good relationship with the underwriting team and can talk to them about specific cases. So I always say, look, go see a mortgage advisor, simply because, even though if it's dead straightforward, it's like if somebody comes to me and says, I want to put 20 grand in an ISA. So for God's sake, you don't need to pay an advisor for that. Just go on Argus Lansdowne or Vanguard or whatever, just do it, right? And I will provide you all the tools on the podcast to do that. But, if you've got something a little bit more complex, or, specialized needs like self-employed, only 1 year's worth of accounts, all that sort of stuff, I might need somebody to almost coach me. Sorry, Siri just woke up there.
Technology.
I know. So I might need somebody to coach me through what I need to do. So we need to understand how valuable that is, right? And we tend to underestimate our own value. So from a financial planning point of view, if I was just interested in a client's money and just interested in selling them more investments, or churning them every 5 years, like far too many financial advisors are, just to make a buck on it. I see it still all the time. Well, I mean, I won't be able to sleep at night, but I'd probably be richer than I am, right? Probably. But when I go to a client's funeral and have his son, you know, so the deceased guy's son say to me, "Thank you for looking after my mum." She said, "You have made the financial aspect of this very sudden bereavement just completely effortless, and we'll be grateful to you forever." And I'm like, my work is done, right? So that's a specialist thing. I've walked through the situation with the client. It's been a coaching arrangement. So in a mortgage point of view, you're right. You know, we're post MMR now. So you need to have all those things you said, bank statements in order, good credit score, all that sort of stuff. And most people don't know where to start. So you can, on a podcast or videos or whatever, provide good information so they can begin to get their house in order. But guess what? People are busy. So I get people come to me and say, "Pete, I know I've been listening to you for 2 years. I know exactly what I have to do, but I'm just too busy. Will you do it for me?" And they are prepared to pay for that service. And so, you know, I think the future is extremely bright for professionals who are prepared to walk with a client through a given situation. If anybody wants more on this, it's an old book and it's quite a hefty thing, and it's called The Support Economy. Yeah. Right. And it's, I'm sure that's what it's called, The Support Economy, by Zuboff and Max Min. Two people. I don't think I've got it here because I think I gave my copy away and it's out of print, which was a really bad idea. So I'm sure it's The Support Economy or something like that. But it's Max Min and Zuboff, and it describes, and this is written in something like 1999, but it describes a deep support relationship between customers who are busy and professionals who are interested in more than just a quick sale. They're interested in a deep support relationship. And I just think, in a world of disintermediation where you can buy anything instantly, and the second half of the book describes, it's almost like a parable, a sort of a story of a couple or a family supported by a series of deep support advisors. And I just think, in a world where you can buy anything online very quickly, deep support planning is going to be increasingly valuable. So that's a niche in itself, I think. And for people who are busy, got a million other things to do, you know, there's going to be value in that, and people will always make money off it, I think.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm a big advocate of. I think the planning versus advice, I think they're two different things. I get so many people who are business owners wanting to speak to me, you know, when their accounts are coming to an end. How do I get myself in the best possible position? You know, even got an employed person who wants to buy a bigger house. And I'm almost an advocate of saying, well, look, either go and get the job that pays you the money. Stop being a limiting belief to yourself, and change your circumstances and earn the money and set yourself up and save the right deposit and just actually have that plan of action, because you're more likely to achieve your goal if you plan for it.
Exactly. To my mind, advice is about broking products, and that's less and less valuable in the internet age because we can do it ourselves. Planning is about relationship, coaching, seeing a path through a given situation and finding the optimal path, and sharing that with the client, and then walking alongside them down that path. Really, that's what planning is. That's what we do here. Long-term relationships with clients. Sometimes we'll go a year and nothing happens, and then they'll ring and say, "I found the dream house, the house I've always wanted to buy is on the market. Can I buy it or not?" That's an interesting conversation, right? So really, because it's a planning thing. It's a lot of fun. It's much more rewarding than flogging products.
Definitely. And in that planning aspect of things, one of the things I'm also a big advocate, which I think is overlooked, is when first speaking to a client in that planning phase where they're just having that initial conversation. I'm not sure all advisors address the protection shortfall and actually say to somebody, look, you know, you might lose your job. You might do this. Let's have a look at, actually, yes, you want to get a mortgage in 12 months, but what could affect you in the next 12 months, which is going to be protection related. And equally, they're helping that planning aspect. What's kind of your views around that from a planning perspective?
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. When I was a mortgage advisor for a couple of years, I had a reputation for having the highest sort of conversion for protection products around the mortgage.
Nice.
So I was working for Rawlinson Alliance, I was in an estate agent in South Wales, had a couple of branches, and it was classic behavioral psychology, really. I would just frame it and I'd say, look, okay, when they first came in for some initial thoughts, I'm like, okay, yeah, you can probably borrow X. It's probably going to cost you X £100 a month, but you need to budget another £100 a month on top of that. And they're like, why? I said, because I'm not doing this mortgage for you unless you protect it, because I will not saddle you up with this debt. And then, if you can't work, you can't pay it, you get kicked out of your house and not having it. And it just right from the start, reinforcing the importance of protection. Now that is a little bit different then, because it was at the point of sale, whereas you rightly say we need to be thinking about that stuff perhaps earlier. Now, but I call sort of protection, well, in the book that I wrote, which I have a copy of.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that. There you go.
All right, okay.
For money book.
But in the book, essentially, they had meaning for money handbook.
And I think
so there's.
I was listening to your podcast episodes. I've listened to your podcast episodes on that where you talk about that. I think every advisor should go and buy a copy, because there's so much planning information in there that will actually help them have conversations with their clients.
The reason I mention it is that essentially I distill financial success to three things. Firstly is spend less than you earn. So that's budgeting, good financial management, all the stuff that's particularly going to help you get a mortgage, right? If your bank balance, your bank statements look healthy, not filled up with gym memberships you're not using, not just occasional dips into overdraft, just good financial management. That's step one, spend less than you earn. Easy to say, sometimes not so easy to do, right? And secondly is protect against disaster. So it's important enough to have its own step, because there is no point building wealth into the future on a foundation that can be washed away just because something catastrophic happens. So protect against disaster. And then the third step is to invest wisely. So, and obviously the book expands on that. But protecting against disaster is the foundation on which everything else is built. So it's ignore it at your peril.
Yep, totally agree with that. Love it. So thinking about, from a mortgage advisor's perspective or small business owner's perspective, if you were going to look at three things that an advisor should implement today, whether it be in their marketing strategy, within their planning, within their business, what would you say from your experience would be the three things that somebody should start doing as a mortgage advisor from today, if they're not already doing it?
Okay, so one that we've commented on already is to start writing down all the questions you get asked. Right, just start to notice them. All right, there's a bit of an active noticing, an active listening. What are the questions that I'm being asked? How am I answering them? Do I find myself repeating the same answers all the time? I mean, literally this week's podcast you're alluding to was how to become a financial advisor. Yep. I get asked that once a week, right? Because I've evangelized so much for financial planning as a profession that people say, how do I become one? And I'm like, I keep writing the same email, So now I'm just like, here you go. Here is 3,500 words on the subject. And a podcast and a video if you want to prefer it that way. So the first thing is, start writing down questions and noticing how you answer them and things like that. My hero, Gary Vaynerchuk, the guy that sort of was the trigger, wrote Crush It, the trigger for doing this, he talks about documenting your journey. So we all develop as professionals. I mean, I look back to my first ever outbound sales call, and this is to an existing customer of the CIS. It was in 1998, right? I'm 23 years old, and I pick up the phone because we used to get given a list book like this, and it was about 1.5 inches thick, and I had 3 of them. And we used to these were existing customers of the CIS in my area, and we had to ring them up and get appointments for our sales managers.
Nice.
The heady days of direct sales, right? And I remember I made my first call, which was not successful. And I came off the phone, and my wife in the other room, my wife of about 6 months, she said, "You sound too young." That's like, sound too young. It's like, yeah, absolutely right. So, I think where I was then and where I am now, 21 years of development, client contact, I'm training advisors here, and I have a job to shut up because I know how I would answer the question, but they need to learn how to do it themselves. So if you document that journey, the stuff you're learning, the stuff you've said to a client, which has made a massive difference in their perception, that's the stuff you need to be aware of, and document it. A 250-word blog post. Today I had a conversation with a client and they asked this question. I've been asked this question 100 times before, but today I answered it in a way which made a massive difference. Let me tell you about it. And it could be a 1-minute Insta video. It could be 15, 20-minute podcast, whatever, or just a blog post. But documenting, even if nobody reads for 2 years, right? It's building up a body of work. So start to listen to the questions that you get asked all the time and write down. Document your own journey as a professional, the stuff you're learning every day, because like, it is interesting. It might just be your mother and, one other random person who reads at start, but it is interesting. We identify with people. What would the third thing I would do? I would definitely consume people who you admire online and learn what they do. I've got a fourth, actually. It's just popped into my mind. But I started podcasting because I was a consumer first. So I listened to people like Michael Hyatt, who's a productivity and leadership podcaster and blogger. I listened to Pat Flynn, who's smartpassiveincome.com, who's an online business genius. I listened to Cliff Ravenscraft, who's a podcasting. He's like the godfather of podcasting, been doing it since 2003. And so, I started listening to these people, learning what they were doing, buying their courses maybe, because I think I want to get better at this. And so you need to invest in yourself. So do it. I suppose that's how to distill that. Invest in yourself by spending time watching other people who are ahead of you, right? And, maybe buy courses or whatever, but it will accelerate your success. And then the fourth thing that just occurred to me is to read this book. You come across this guy, Ryan Holiday, I think is one of the best authors of our generation. I absolutely adore him. This book, he's written all kinds of excellent books. There's another one here, which I can't just spot. The Obstacle is the Way. So in other words, he's sort of, persevering. As you persevere and as you overcome obstacles, really that's where the magic happens. But Ego is the Enemy. I've resolved to read this book once a year for the rest of my life.
Nice. Because
we live in a media-rich world, it's easy to, as the Americans say, drink your own Kool-Aid and start to believe how good you are. This is a very, and that's when danger happens, I think. So this book is it's the sort of antidote to that. It doesn't crush you, it doesn't say, actually, you're a bit shit, don't, but actually it gives you a really good perspective. And I love this book. My favorite book of the last 10 years, easy. Nice. So highly recommend it. Nothing to do with content creation or anything like that. Just an outstanding book. And we'll put the link to we'll find Support Economy online, and we'll find Michael Hyatt's podcast and Pat Flynn's and Ego is the Enemy. We'll put links to those in the show notes for this, so obviously you can find them nice and easy.